Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. And welcome to the show, y'all. This is part 2 of Tale of Two Juveniles. And look here. Like I left off in the first episode, right? I was telling you about Jim and Terry about to get ready to go to the compound. A major move for them, a major shift, a transition for them because they've been in the back since they were 14 years old. Dealing with the idea and the concept of having to go to the compound is something that they're not going to be able to just handle well, right? So they got the counselors to come to the back, the counselors that they're going to be dealing with out on the compound to come back to the back and tell them what to expect and how things are going to be on the compound, right? So when the counselors come back to the cell, they're talking to them. They got both of them up on the door, on the cell door, and they're talking to them through the flap, and they're telling them, look, now keep in mind, right, they are 14, and they're about to turn 18 in a couple of months or so, a few months apart. But here's the thing. They don't have birthdays in the same month, so one is going to get out before the other. I think Jim is going to get out before Terry. And at the same time, they've grown from 14-year-old boys to 18-year-old young men. So they've grown taller, their bodies have changed, their look has changed, their interactions with people have been stunted because they're behind this door, right? What they've learned is the prison jargon from all the other adult offenders that were in the back with them, but separate from them. They've learned the language of prison. So when they're talking to the counselors, they sound like they're seasoned vets of the prison system. But you got to keep in mind, I want y'all to remember something. When people come into prison, most people, this even happened to me for a while. Most people that come into prison, whatever the age is that you come into prison, your mental stops right there. It stops right there. Your emotional development stops right there, right? And then what you add to that, all the nonsense that's added to that, you're filtering that through that age that you are when you came in. So all the stuff that they learned, they filtered through a 14-year-old mind. Keep that in mind now. So they're talking to these counselors as if they know what's going on and what to expect, and they're going to be just fine, right? They don't even realize deep down, because they have become numb to the realities of the situation based off of what they've been listening to and hearing from these adults that are in the back with them, right? And these adults also telling them, look, go holler at this person. He going to look out for you. I already done told him you're on your way out. They have no clue what that really means. So the day comes that Jim turns 18. And it's a happy day. The people at the prison in the back, they even went to his cell and told him happy birthday. And one of them even took him a cupcake with one candle on it. It wasn't lit, of course. Just a ceremonial type of thing. They had gotten to know these guys. They were kids when they came there. Now they were young adults. So they got to know them and they wanted the best for them. You understand? So, and they were trying to make sure that they understood that, look, don't get caught up in what you're about to walk into. But you got to remember, Jim has got a 45-year sentence. And he's 14 years old when he gets it, and he's 18-year-old now. So he still has 41 years left to do. So he tells them, I'm going to be fine and all this and that. I'm going to be straight. So when he gets out, they tell him what cell he's going to be in. Now keep in mind, since he's been locked up, he hasn't been in a cell with anybody else but Terry. Anybody else but Terry. So when he gets out on the compound, he walks out, and it's almost like when you walk into, you just said if you're like in New York, right? And right before you get to Times Square, you're coming down the street and you walk, and then all of a sudden it seems like the whole world opens up to you, right? That's what it's like when you're coming out of the back. When you're in the back, there's nobody else around. It's just buildings and fences and the grass, right? And concrete. But when you hit that corner, you get to that gate and that gate opens up. Then you step through that gate and that gate closes. And then another gate opens. You step through that and then it closes. When you walk about 10 or 15 feet, all of a sudden you'll start to see other inmates. and they'll be standing around. Some of them walking, they're yelling and back and forth and talking to each other. Now, Jim has to take all of that in real fast. He's looking. He don't know any of these people, but he got some names of people to talk to when he gets out, based off of the adult offenders in the back that have told him, go talk to this person, go talk to that person. So he's got some names to drop. So as he's walking, people are looking at him like, where you come from? What that is? They're asking him all these types of questions. And he's been schooled by the adult offenders on what to do. And he doesn't say anything to anybody. He keeps walking. And then he said, where is Unit 5 at? And they tell him, Unit 5 down there. They said, when you get here? He just looked at him and kept going. When he gets down to Unit 5, he pushes his stuff through the front door, and somebody's already in the front door on the other side. So they see him coming, and they grab his car, and they try to help him pull it through. And then he tells them, get your hands off my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. And they look at him and say, my bad, young blood. So he pushes on the way through, and he comes in, and the counselor that had come to the back to talk to him, she's waiting on him. She's waiting on him, and she tells him to come on through. She said, leave your stuff right here. They pushed it into the office so it's in a safe space. And then she told him to come on into my office. So when he steps into the office, she tells him that what cell he's going to be assigned to, who his cell is going to be, and all of those different types of things. And she tells him what to expect. She said, we tried to find somebody to put you in the cell with that we felt like that you would be compatible with. But in the meantime, in between time, you're going to have to deal with your cell until Terry comes out in a couple of months. And then we're going to put y'all in the same cell. Jim tells her, okay, everything is fine with that as far as he's concerned. So not understanding, he asked the counselor, do you know this guy or do you know that guy? And she was like, yeah, how do you know them? And he doesn't understand. He tells her, he said, such and such told me to go talk to him when I got out. So she tells him, she said, listen to me. Stay away from these guys. These guys are bad news. You don't want to be around them. Now, he's not receiving any of that because he's already been told by the guys in the back not to listen to anything that the counselors say, right? Because they the police. They the police. You don't want to hear what they got to say. So he don't pay attention to none of that. So he gets his stuff and he leaves and he goes to his cell. When he gets to his cell has already been talked to by the counselor. So his cell is trying to take him under his wing and school him as to the way things are. And he lets him come into the room, he sets him down, and he talks to him and explains to him the ins and outs of the cell and how they're going to operate. Tell him don't spit in the sink. When you get up and you need to use the restroom, always turn away from me. You understand what I'm saying? If you have to pass gas, you back up to the door and pass gas at the door. Don't just be laying there in the cell passing gas so I could smell it. He getting him all of that. And Jim is looking at him like, what the? Nobody told him that. Nobody told him that. Ain't no just laying up in your bunk passing gas while you're sitting there. Get up out the bed, walk to the door. It makes me think back in the day, man. Look here, let me tell you something real quick. Back in the day, my brother, we'll be at the house, looking at TV or something like that, right? And we were the kids, so we had to lay on the floor in front of the TV while our granddaddy, he'd be sitting in his chair. And my grandmama, she might be sitting on the couch, or she might not even be in there, right? But my brother, he would just pass gas right there, right? And we thought it was the funniest thing. And I'm talking about, it would be stinking. And my granddad say, boy, get up and go out there on that porch. Now this is at nighttime, right? He'd have to get up, go open up the door, and go stand out on the porch until he finished passing gas. Because it was that stinking. And thinking about what Jim was told by his cellie. Because you can't, when you're locked down, you can't go out the cell. But telling him to get up on the door, and you turn your back to the door, right? You know what I'm saying? And then pass gas like that so that it'll go outside the cell, which it really don't go outside the cell. It's just, that's really about power and control. You understand? It just makes me think about that. And all the other things in the cell, you know what I'm saying? Like it's when he got out of the shower to make sure that he left the room so that his cellie could get dressed, and his cellie would do the same for him. Don't have people in the cell, you know what I'm saying, that sitting on the bottom bunk, and don't have people in the cell that he don't approve of or he don't know and all that old kind of stuff. They clean up the cell every other day, and then he's got to clean up the other days. You know, that type of stuff. Breaking all the rules of the penitentiary down when you living with somebody. You understand? Breaking all of that down. And telling them to mind his business and how, you know what I'm saying, to stack his commissary and all that old kind of stuff, right? He asked him, did he have any vices? And he told him he liked to smoke a little weed. His seller told him, I don't smoke weed, so don't be smoking in here. Smoke out there somewhere. So Jim is listening to all of this, and some of the stuff he had been told by the guys in the back, but this was new territory for him. This was all new for him. He's like, what in the world is going on? It was like a culture shock. Think about this now. He's still a kid mentally. He's still a kid mentally. So he's listening to all of this, and he's soaking it up, and he's taking it in. And then he asks his seller, he said, you know these two guys? And his seller said, yeah, how you know them? So Jim tells him how he knows them. It's about the guys in the back. They told him to go look these guys up when he got out. And he said, what is it that they told you about these two dudes? And Jim tells him, you know, they told me if I needed some weed, I can go to them and all this old kind of stuff and so on and so forth, right? And that they would look out for me. So Jim said it, told him, nah, you don't need to be hollering at them, man. He said, why not? He said, they're not straight. These dudes are not straight. All they want to do is get your money and have you in debt. And he said, you don't want to get in debt in here. And his seller went on to explain to him and trying to tell him, look, if you get in debt in here, all kinds of things can happen. This ain't just about paying with commissary. If you ain't got the money, you play with blood. You understand what I'm saying? Do y'all understand what I'm saying when I say you pay with blood? Yeah, sit down then. Because that's what they're talking about. So he's letting Jim know you don't want to deal with these dudes. So Jim understood that. He caught that real fast. He didn't want to be dealing with people like that. He didn't want to deal with people like that. So he don't even go look them up. But guess what? The kite had already been sent to them, letting them know that he was on his way out. And anytime you got a dope boy that has a potential customer coming out, somebody that's been recommended from somebody in the back that's been paying good back in the back, they want to get at him. So when he came out of the cell after he done got himself together, him and his seller walking around and his seller's introducing him to some of the more solid people in the unit, here come these two dudes. They step to him and say, hey man, what's up? Your name Jim? And he's standing there with his seller and he's like looking at him. He's like, yeah, wow, what's up? And then they say, my name is such and such and such and such. He said, oh, hey, yeah, how y'all doing? What's going on? What's cracking? So after they finish introducing themselves, they tell, man, can we talk to you in private? So he looks at his seller and his seller says, you don't have to. He said, no, it's cool. So they walk off and they walk to the other end of the basketball court. They're outside, right? They walk to the other end of the basketball court and they tell him, look, if you're looking for anything, talk to us. Don't talk to nobody else. We're going to give you a good deal. So Jim told him, okay then, that's what's up, but right now I'm not looking for nothing. They said, here, take something on credit. He said, no, I don't do credit. If I ain't coming to pay, I don't want it. They said, no, this one on us. He said, no, I don't want that. And then he just kept walking away from him, and they kept walking towards him. You understand? So he understood what was going on. So he gets back over near his seller, and his seller said, man, he said he didn't want that. So they said, ain't no problem. Ain't no problem at all. So they went on their way because they understood that Jim Selly, he was one of them dudes. He's a solid dude, had a good reputation, but he'll put hands on him. So they looked at it as if, you know, Jim was being protected by dude. And that's just the end of it. So they backed up. So Jim is adapting, he's adjusting and all this and that, and he goes to the chow hall with his seller, and then they find him a job, you know, and they when they find him a job, they tell him he got to go to school part-time in the morning, then he do his job in the afternoon because he still hadn't gotten his GED. So he's in school and he's learning real fast. He's a smart kid. The teacher likes him. Everything is fine. So she says, when you graduate and when you get your GED, she said, I'm going to make you my teacher's aide so you can help me out in here with these young people. And that's what happened. First time he took his GED test, he knocked it out the park. And she went to the warden and she got him a job as a teacher's aide. And she already had 2 other teacher's aides. So now she had 3. And he was the 3rd one. So the other 2 schooled him. And he was on the right path. He was on the right path. He had a lot of time to do, but they liked him. They liked him. And he liked it. He was comfortable. He had a good selling. But he was conflicted because he didn't know what he wanted to do when Terry gets out. And that's coming soon. That's coming soon in a couple of weeks. So the couple of weeks, they pass by pretty fast. Now it's time for Terry to get out. So they go to Terry and they take him a cupcake with one candle in it. They don't light it, of course. And they tell him that everything is going to be fine, and Jim's been doing well out there, and he's got a letter or two from Jim letting him know how things were out there. But he was feeling some type of way because the way Jim talks about his cellar, he wasn't sure if Jim was going to be move in with him when he got out. So when Terry gets out, he walks the same line that when Terry gets out, he walks the same line that Jim did, going through those doors. And once he got out on the compound, he made his way to the unit. He gets into the pod, and Jim runs up on him, man, and gave him some dap. And he said, "Man, what's up, bro? How you doing?" And Terry's looking at him and all this and that. And he's scratching the side of his face, and his eyes are darting left to right, looking all around the pod. Head is on a swivel. And he said, "Man, what's wrong? Are you all right?" He was like, "Yeah." He said, "What dude and them at?" First thing he wants to know, rubbing his nose because his nose is running snot. And he said, "No, we don't need to be dealing with them." He said, "No, man." He said, "I need to holler at them about some business." He said, "Man, go on and get your stuff situated in the cell, and then I'll go take you to him." So Terry takes his stuff to the cell, and he meets his cellar, and his cellar's trying to talk to him, but Terry don't want to rap. He don't want to rap. He's trying to get to dude and them. Then when he gets to dude and them, Jim takes him to him. He gets to dude and them. He tells him, he said, "Man, you got that for me." He already had written him and letting him know what he wanted when he got out. So they give him some cocaine and a syringe. He runs straight to the cell. Bang, bang, bang. Now he's straight. He comes out, he's laughing, he's joking, he's talking and all this and that. He's still, you know what I'm saying, got his head on a swivel, but he's different now. He's different. So him and Jim are talking. They walk out back and they're walking the track. And while they're walking the track, Terry asked him, he said, "Man, what's up, man? Are we going to move in together? What? They told us we were going to get put in the same cell." And Jim tells him, he said, like, "Yeah. As soon as the cell comes open, we're going to move in, right?" So they go to the unit manager. They talk to the unit manager. And the unit manager tells them, "Yeah, everything's still straight. When we get a cell, we're going to move y'all in together." And when Terry leaves, the unit manager said, "Let me talk to you." He talking to Jim. He said, "Listen." He said, "I done seen people like this before 1,000 times." He said, "You need to be careful." You know what I'm saying? Even though y'all friends from Juvenile and all this and that, it looks to me like he's chosen his path. Now, you got to keep in mind something about the people that work in the penitentiary. They know everything, too. They know who's getting high. You know, word comes to them how it comes to them. They know who's getting high. They know who's doing this. They know who's doing that. So they're trying to warn Jim to stay away from Terry because Terry is going down a dark and lonely road. But Jim is loyal to Terry. That's his friend. So it took a few months and they ended up getting in the cell together. And by now, you know, Jim is doing good. He's got a good job. He got plenty of commissary on the shelf. You know what I'm saying? His parents are coming to visit him when they can. He's adapting to the environment. He's adapting to the environment. But Terry, on the other hand, is having a hard time. He's just as smart. He's just as smart as Jim, but he can't seem to get hold to what he needs to and concentrate when he's in school. And he has some kind of attitude towards Jim trying to teach him, you know, how to pass this GED test. He's upset by it. He said, "Man, you can't tell me nothing. You the same age as me. We've been through the same thing." But that's not what Jim was on. Jim was trying to help him. But because Terry is addicted to this dope, he can't see that. He can't seem to understand, look here, man, he's just trying to help you. He couldn't understand that for nothing in the world. So Terry keeps banging that dope. And one day, Jim comes in from work. This is on a weekend. You know, he had to go work and clean up the school. He comes in from work, and a lot of his commissary is gone, missing. Terry done took some of his commissary and bought some dope. But he promised to pay it back. While he's sitting at the table, getting ready to preparing the dope to shoot up. And Jim is looking at him and he don't know what to say. This is his brother, but he's pissed off. So he starts to evaluate the situation. And he said, "Man, I can't do this." So Terry looks at him right when he's getting ready to put the syringe in his arm. And he said, "You can't do what?" Then he sticks the syringe in his arm and he's going to shoot that dope. And Jim tells him, he said, "Man, next week, man, I'm moving out. I'm moving back in with my old cellar." So Terry looks at him, he's pissed off. He said, you ain't straight. You ain't straight. You ain't straight. Why you doing that to me? He said, man, this man, you supposed to be my friend. You supposed to be loyal to me. We supposed to be able to do this together. Now you telling me you gonna move out. He said, man, I ain't on that. I ain't on that. So he jumps up and he tries to hit Jim. And when he hits Jim, they end up getting a fight. And while they're fighting, the police comes over and grabs both of them and takes them both to the hole. Now they know that Jim has been doing good. He's a teacher's aide, but you can't be fighting and get those types of write-ups, man, when you're a teacher's aide. So when he did all of that kind of stuff, you know, he's back in the hole. The warden them came back in the hole to talk to him because they're still young. They understand it. They've seen this before. The warden come back in the hole and he tells them what's going on. But when they talk to him about what's going on, they tell him, say, look, man, he said, you're going to have to make a choice. And Jim made a choice, and he told him he didn't want to be back in the cell with him, but he was still going to be friends with Terry. He said, I just can't live with him. Now that made Terry spiral out of control. Everybody's talking about him, the young junkie they called him. He's running around the compound getting dope from in and everybody. And eventually it caused him to have to check in because he couldn't pay it. He couldn't pay his bills. So when he checked in, they ended up shipping him to another prison, and time went on, and the years got past him. Now they're 5 years in, 10 years in. Terry's still an addict. Jim, he's still doing the teacher's aid stuff and doing good. Everybody's looking at him. You know, he's helped quite a few people get their GEDs. He's got quite a reputation. But then they open up these warehouses in the prisons where you can actually go to work and make free world money. And Jim, he decides that's what he wants to do. He wants to give up the teacher's aid job so he can start working at a real job on the compound and make some money for the day that when he gets out. Starts saving his money. He's got his head on his shoulders. So he's working at the factory making real money, and they're saving it for him, putting it in the bank account and all this and that. But Terry's still getting high at the other prison that he just got shipped to. And his reputation is all over the state. He cannot be trusted. He's doing all sorts of things. So Terry ends up in a fight and he gets stabbed. And they put him in protective custody. 5 more years go by, he's 15 years in, and now he's about 3 or 4 months from getting out. 3 or 4 months from getting out. And he decides to write Jim. And he tells Jim, he said, look, I've been clean for 6 months now. And I think I'm going to make it. And he apologized to Jim for all the things that he had put him through throughout the years. Now keep in mind, when he got on the compound, Jim was 18 years old. And now he's 38. And so is Terry. And he's headed to the streets. Headed to the streets. So Jim writes him back and tells him he wishes him the best, and he tells him to stay in touch. And he writes him back and he tells him he will. So when Terry gets out, he don't write him. Jim doesn't have any way to contact him. No way of knowing what's up with him. 2 years later, Jim runs into a guy that was at the other prison with Terry. And he got out of prison on a lot of gang members' money. And they were wanting their money. So when he got out, that same gang was on the streets. They jumped him and they whooped him pretty bad. And he had been clean all this time. But after they beat him like that, to try to ease the pain, he went and got him some cocaine. And when he shot the dope, it killed him. He OD'd and he died. And when the guy was telling Jim this story, it crushed him. It crushed him. He didn't know how to respond to that. He didn't know what to think about that. So when he pulled me to the side and he was telling me this story and I was talking to him and he was explaining, he said, people don't understand what it's like as a juvenile to go through this. People don't get none of that. He said, my friend couldn't deal with what was going on. He said, but I remember Terry when he was giving me all the support I needed at the beginning when they first told me how much time they were going to give me. He said, but now when Terry needed me the most, I couldn't be there for him. So I said, what you going to do now? He's gone. I know you miss him. What are you going to do now? He said, man, when I get out, I'm going to live for him too. Because both of us lost our childhoods for doing stupid stuff. And he said, I don't want this to happen to nobody else. And that's why I'm telling y'all this story. So think about what I'm saying, y'all. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.